All right, everyone, let's just get into it here. Make sure the sound and all of that is working correctly. Good. Okay. I can hear myself. I can see myself. I have a dog trying to break into my room. Perfect. Okay. So we are good to go. Everything's looking good. Okay. Awesome. So, if anyone is new here, my name is Michael Noss. I'm a charter market technician, quantitative trader. Essentially, what we do is every Sunday we meet, hang out, talk charts. We go over crypto markets, FX markets, the individual ETFs that make up most of the stock market. Then we go into individual names and try to figure out what it is that we're going to like kind of the most going into Monday, because that's the goal, is to try to find some ideas and make some money going into next week. So thank you everyone for coming by, and let's just get right into it. Let's go right into the charts here. No sense dawdling around. Boom. All right, let me turn off some indicators just because I was doing some experimentation. And there we go. Perfect. Okay. So, as always, being a creature of habit, we will get started taking a look at Bitcoin. I always start with Bitcoin, then I go over to crypto, then we do FX, then we do stocks, and then we go into individual names. So if anything you want me to take a look at, you know, save those for now, and we'll go over them a little bit later. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to remove this. And it does kind of look like this bull flag may have done what it should do, and we may start to push higher. But I think the easiest way to look at it is kind of the tail that these anchored VWAPs are showing us here. So we have this anchored VWAP, which is just from this swing low. That's kind of keeping a lid on us, and that lid is around 25,000. And then right below us, we have this area right here, which is slowly creeping up, and that's going into about 21,000. Now that this time has had some pattern or some time to develop, I wouldn't be shocked if kind of what we're seeing here is just an overall bear flag. As a trend trader and a technician at whole, we have to kind of say, hey, the primary trend will generally tell us direction. And any pattern that we see in the primary trend is more likely to resolve in the direction of that primary trend than the other way. So it's more likely, in my opinion, that this Bitcoin continues to trade lower than it does to turn around and trade up. So, that doesn't mean necessarily has to, of course, anything's possible in the market, but just primary trends, generally speaking, persist a little more than they move. And that's why technical analysis works, because trends persist longer than they should. So, right, push down, sideways consolidation, push down, possible sideways consolidation before another push down. Again, maybe. I'll be watching this lower anchored VWAP along with the support area, which is also this uptrend line. So for me, all eyes on about 21,000 in Bitcoin. And that will be my note. So, for people who don't know, what I do here is essentially a preview for what I do over each and every night at Stats Ed Trading. So, if you're interested, link in the description below for my website. That will get you access to, there's a free trading course there that you can just sign up. It'll also take you to take a look at my trading tools if there's any of those that you're interested in. Full disclosure, those are affiliate links, so I'll make a few bucks if you're interested in those. Stats Edge Pro is basically where you'll see me take screenshots like this a lot tonight. And it's basically, we have a live trading room. You have access to all of my scans. We have a once a month Q&A. And the main point of it is that I do this kind of analysis on all these different markets each and every night. And you get to, instead of hanging out with me and trying to like do this for 2 hours, what you can do is you can just stop on by each and every night and then just go, okay, well, let's see what Michael has to think about the market today. And everything will just kind of be laid out there as well, right? Good evening. How's it going, man? Thanks for stopping on by. Not too much is going on. We're just checking out crypto for now. I think, right, things are more likely to resolve lower than they are to resolve higher. When it comes to anything, I'm interested in relative strength. So as we're going through here, so this flow is interesting to me. So I want to add this. I'm just going to add an alert here for now. I'm not going to bother marking this up just because. And just because we're having this little bull flag right here on flow. If this kind of, I want to see it digest for a little bit longer, but if it does and this moves higher, that means that this flow could just be a giant rounded bottom here, right? And that one could push up and we could continue higher here. So I just got an error from TrendSpider, so I'm just going to restart. This one, geez. Smash the like button. That is good advice. Thank you for that. Please do that. And that's other than that flow, I am still long some mana. I'm long kind of from 98 cents. I'm actually in it in Canadian dollars, so it's a little bit different, but for the US equivalent, around 98 cents. Essentially just risking down to the lows here, and initial target would be up here. So it's about a 4 to 1 risk reward, which would be a double if it works out, and then, you know, a pretty substantial hit if it didn't work. So that just means that when you have a substantial risk like that, you're just trading smaller, obviously. It's how you offset it. The other one that was interesting to me is sand. This one potentially putting in a little rounded bottom here, and then Uniswap. And I am in Uniswap, so I've been kind of adding to this one a little bit as I go, but I'm initially in Uniswap somewhere in this area, and then bought a little bit more on this breakout. So if we can get a push over here, maybe I'll buy a little bit more. I don't know. That would raise my price up pretty high, but right to the point now where regardless of what happens, I'll stop out of this one for a small gain. Again, just playing relative strength, right? If you take this, keep this in your mind, and then go back to Bitcoin, right? You can see how this is holding. If you just compare, I guess, this May area, right? Way under this May area. And then you go to Uniswap, you can see here would be the same May area, and we're pretty much on par with it. So big relative strength here. Great trade so far. Trying to look to see if this can continue. If we go to the weekly chart on Uniswap, it bounced. If it bounced in this area, that would just kind of make sense. That was the breakout area, right? Came back to retest it. Could get a little push up. I wouldn't be shocked to get a little bit of a pullback here, just looking at the longer term chart. But again, just after relative strength. Everything I do is all about relative strength. So summarize, I like to summarize before I go to each new instrument. Bitcoin is looking like a giant bear flag. But while we are bouncing within the market, I'm looking at relative strength, things like Uniswap and Mana. And let's just get over to the regular currencies. So the UUP seems to be like the most important chart in the world right now. Every time we've had these sell-offs in the UUP, we've had massive rallies in the market. Also, anything that's denoted in US dollars is going to be a big deal when it comes to that. So a lot of a lot of things are pointing to the fact that the UUP is super important. So we have to be careful with making sure that we are understanding where the dollar is so that we can go and kind of figure that out from there. All right. Sorry, I'm just on my other screen here. I'm bringing up, because as a lot of you guys know, I trade Forex, and I just reminded myself as I went in that I'm in 2 Forex trades right now. So I just want to open up one of them here and make sure things don't go too insane while I'm on with you guys, and I'll go over those in a second. So, this could be just a massive bull flag going on here in the dollar. Certainly could be the case. So if it is, and this continues to push higher, we have a strong dollar that's going to push higher. Obviously, all the FX currencies that we're about to look at that are denoted in the dollar are going to push down. And I also believe the market will probably push down as well. Just because if you line up what's been happening recently to the dollar, then it's one of those things that the dollar is kind of leading everything else. And we can do that if we go into the price compare here. And let's make it a line chart. And we'll just go into the SPY. You can see as this has been kind of rallying, you can see the dollar's been selling off a bit, right? As we rallied here, the SPY's been selling off a bit. And as these things have been pulling back, both times they pulled back, we've had these kind of relief rallies in the overall market. So the dollar is a very important chart right now. I don't want to undersell that at all. I think it's a super, super important chart. So that's why I'm kind of noting this before we go into our FX pair. So I see a question about the euro, and we'll get to that, but I don't think the euro matters. And this is a chat that I've had with a trader who's primarily in our trading room who trades FX. I really don't think the other currency matters as much as the dollar, right? So I believe it's the dollar that's kind of pushing around everything else. And that's just kind of the way it's going right now. So Aussie Yen is one of the positions that I'm in. I've been kind of battling this thing off and on for a while. I'm like, oh, is this thing going to be a bull flag breakout? It's Aussie Yen that I have my most amount of money with, like dollar amount made this year. I think is actually probably a lot in this move that happened right here in Aussie Yen. But now we've just kind of been congesting. There's an old saying in trading that bottoms are generally events. You can see right here and here and here. And tops are a process. Tops, generally you don't see V tops the way you see V bottoms. Generally you see a lot of V bottoms and then you just see a lot of mess at the top. So this, I think, might be the mess at the top. And I've had this note on and off for a while. So, but full disclosure, I am short Aussie Yen right now through my FX prop account. And mainly it's just because on the 4-hour chart, which is generally where I trade off of, generally speaking, the way I draw my anchored VWAPs is I'll draw them from major swing lows if we're in downtrends and major swing highs if we're in uptrends. And you can see we're fighting a lot of those right there. And then on the daily chart, we're bouncing back up into, let's just draw this out, into this range right here. So you can see it was an important top here, and it was an important top here, and then it was an important bottom here. So a pretty major range. So that combined with the anchored VWAP makes me short Aussie Yen. And then the fact that I think that this overall top could be forming. I don't know, but tops are generally messy. So maybe that's a top in Aussie Yen. Who knows? Aussie Nas, nothing there. Aussie dollar, this one's kind of interesting. It could be having trouble with this area. If we zoom way out, you can see how important this zone's been for a while. But again, when I look at this, I don't think it's going to be so much the Aussie part of this that's going to be moving. It's going to be what's the dollar going to do. If the dollar rallies, this thing's going to drop. I don't think there's anything that Australia is going to do that's going to kind of offset that indifference. Euro pound, right? Had this level here for a long time. I've made some good money playing off this level. Now we're bouncing up. Might be interesting to see if we coil around for a change in trend, but who knows? And then euro dollars. This is to your question, an insanely repetitive pattern of the anchored VWAP from the low. The thing pops up, hits that anchored VWAP from the low, sells off, then you draw an anchored VWAP from the next low, and so on and so forth. So maybe this will continue as well. I don't know. Again, I think it's all about the dollar. I don't think it's about the I don't think it's about the euro. I don't think it's about the pound. I don't think it's about any of the quote unquote minor currencies. I think everybody right now is just super into what's going to happen with the dollar, right? I'm actually going to send this one out on Twitter. There we go. I just wanted to talk a little bit about, I just said I channeled my inner Brian Shannon on Twitter because of this, but again, it's an insane pattern. And this is actually the chart that made me experiment with if we're in an uptrend, drawing anchored VWAPs from the highs, and if we're in a downtrend, drawing them from the lows. Because, how do you get anything better than this? So the other one here that's I'm also short is pound yen, right? So I'm kind of double into buying the yen against these other currencies, and I'm intentionally picking non-dollar currencies simply because I want to make sure that I'm not affecting what I think is going to be just a hugely important chart with looking at the dollar. And again, it's the same kind of reason. We have this rounded top right here. Potentially, we have a rounded top. We go into the 4-hour charts. We can see the anchored VWAPs from the major lows. We're running up against that in that kind of area right here. And then if we draw out a support zone, we can see that there's a pretty significant area right here as well. So combination of those two things and then the longer term pattern makes me want to bang on it short a bit. I'm trying to see if I can hold to get into this range right here, because that'd be a big one. If I get that, you'll know I'm a very happy man. That'll be a really good trade. So same with pound dollar, right? No difference. It's not about the pound. It's about the dollar, right? That's the thing. You always got to keep in mind when you're trading these currencies that you've got kind of these two things at play. And then again, same here with dollar CAD. right? You can also look at this as CAD dollar, right? Same, just flip the chart, right? Same kind of thing. What's been holding up the CAD a lot is essentially its. Oh, later, man. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. Huge zone here on CAD, and I think what's been holding this is basically just looking at oil. So if this, if oil tanks, then maybe CAD will. If the dollar starts to rise again, this will obviously push down as well, right? So again, I think it's all about the dollar. So that's all I really think for currencies. Basically, I could have summed that up just by saying, hey, the only thing that matters right now is the dollar index. So keep an eye on that. JC talks about dollar strength equal equity weakness. Is this a real correlation? Well, the important thing to know is that correlations come and go, right? They right now, it is a real correlation, right? You can just see it by looking at the charts. And I pointed that out then. Why? I don't know. Who cares? But the thing to know is that no correlation sticks around forever. Right? There will always be some reason in which you go, okay, the correlation, if correlation stuck forever, right, that would be a game. That game would get worked out of the market. And away you go, right? So right now it's a correlation, and it may just be a correlation because people are trying to push into, they're trying to push somewhere that's safe right now in this market, right? Can't do bonds. You can't do really equities, right? You can't crypto. So it's the whole there is no other option thing is what I think is going on right now. And that's everyone just funneling into the dollar right now. But it's one of those things with, price out of the market, self-correcting. Yeah, well, exactly. Your mantras make sense after 1,000 times. Well, right, and that's the thing to know about correlations is they're always dancing, they're always moving. There are people out there that play correlations, but they know that these things are going to change and rotate over time, and they need to change and rotate over time right along with them. So they need to make sure that they're, that they're not doing something crazy like always trading because when X moves, Y usually moves, that kind of thing. The concept's generally called pairs trading. You trade like Coke against Pepsi or the Canadian dollar versus and something else, or you trade what's another common pairs trade, like two gas companies or Google Apple used to be a pairs trade for a while, that kind of thing. It's really one of those things that it's kind of to each their own. I don't really kind of like doing that, because I think you need a lot of buying power to do it, because you're basically trying to play the spread between two things, and you're trying to play them whether they're widening or narrowing, and that becomes a little bit complicated to me, is to try to do those things. So I don't know. And then the other thing you got to keep in mind is the old trader saying that in bear markets, or it's more in crashes, all correlations go to 1, which essentially just means that if the market's going to crash, if the market's going to sell dramatically, everything in the world is going to get correlated. Like when the market crashes, there's just nowhere to go, right? For those brief moments, all correlations go to 1. and the issue with that is then if you have a correlational model that's making, tight spreads all the time, and then every now and then it gets blown out, it's a hard knock life. But all right, into the SPY. And let's bring up my ETF list. So now we're into the equity markets, and then we'll go into individual stocks. Nice. Oh, that guy? Yeah. So I've got I'm actually on an upper floor. So I have an upper deck and a lower deck. And I put that one out there. It's got a little bug net around it for when the bugs get out here. It's got a nice sun net. It's my outdoor office. It's where I spend most of my day now. I just go out in the morning and kick out there and hang out there as much as I can. Anytime I don't need to be in here, I'm definitely not in here. It's because in Canada, there'll be a time coming very soon in which I don't have a say in the matter. I got to be in here. So until then, I'm going to hang out there. All right, so we got a lot going here on the SPY. We have a lot in this area. We have prior lows back in, what's that, February, March. And then we have these highs in May, June, and now we're bumping against those as well. Also, the anchored VWAP from that prior level. So we got a lot hanging out in this area. And we've moved a long way to get to this area. I would be shocked if we don't at least poke through a little bit. Like, that would surprise me in the near future. However, this is a really, really strong area around this 420. So if we are still in a bear market and we start to see some selling here, I really think that selling is going to continue. It's one of those things that people, myself included, made some really good money, both realized and a lot of unrealized. I'm sitting on a ton of unrealized gains right now. As the market's kind of pushed up here from, looking at whatever was relatively strong back here and, buying that as the market kind of recovered. If we start to sell here, and even if we get too close into kind of this area, kind of below this high right here, I think things might start to get bad again because, right, as Captain Buzzkill, I just want to remind everybody that until this kind of clear pattern changes, right, we are still technically in a downtrend. So if we hold above here for a while, and we hang out, or we put in a kind of a shallow low and then go, maybe I'll change my tune. It's time to start talking about maybe the bull market being back on. But, right, we have a lot in this area, and that's just going to simply be my note, which I know has been my note for a while because really for a week and a bit, the market hasn't moved. And we have massive resistance in this area. So the question always with resistance is, are we getting through? And I have no idea. All I know is that the longer that we hang out here, the higher probability we push through. Because we're in a long-term downtrend, but we're actually in a pretty decent short-term uptrend. So for me, this is just kind of a bull flag in this short uptrend, but that's in the in the context of the long-term downtrend. So short-term uptrend in the context of the long-term downtrend. So when I'm getting kind of conflict like that, I start to get a little bit nervous. But again, I'm there so my philosophy, and again, anyone in the pro room will tell you this, the way I generally work is the market sells or it starts to move sideways. I'm building a list of things that are relatively strong at that time, and I'm sitting mostly in cash, maybe taking some shots here and there. as the market starts to move up, I'm buying that list of things that I was making when we were in, selling or pushing down, because I'm buying the stuff that didn't come down with the market. So, right, when the market's moving up, I am like right now, I'm pretty heavily long everything from some pretty good prices. And as the market pushes back up, my job gets harder and harder, because when the market is just rocketing like this, I'm either buying stuff overextended, or I am buying stuff that's relatively weak. Because if it hasn't pushed out, then it's going to be relatively weak to the market. Right now, we've got 5-6 days of consolidation, so that's good. But so what I'm doing is I'm selling the things that I bought when the market was bottoming out there, and I'm selling them up here. So the upside to that is it works for me, and it's just kind of the way I flow with the market and the way I jive. The bad part of it is that if this kind of rally just continues higher, I will be getting lighter and lighter and lighter as it continues higher, right? Because I'm more in sell mode than buy mode. And then for me, I want to see a pullback or a longer kind of chop consolidation of the market, and then I make my list, then I take the trade, right? Rinse and repeat, just so people kind of know how at least my methodology works. Do I hedge? No. I don't really see too much of a point in hedging. And the reason for that is because I'd rather sell, right? And, unless there's some, reason that you didn't want to sell the stock, if you believe the stock is going to go down, my philosophy is just sell it or sell part of it. The advantage that I always say that I have over the overall market is more one of liquidity and flexibility. I can get into a position, and then if I'm wrong and I wanna try something, then I can just get back out, and I can kind of do that over and over again, where I can get in and out, in and out, in and out. So for me, I would rather just be selling. The one saying that I like to kind of reinforce in my head and other people's heads over and over and over again is, I believe it's Peter Lynch, and correct me if I'm wrong, but he just has a very common phrase of, there's been more money lost preparing for a correction than lost in the correction itself, right? So the more you end up messing with things, kind of the worse off you generally are. So that's kind of what I'm just seeing with the SPY. We are at a massive, massive resistance here. If we get through, that's great. And again, the longer we just kind of chop sideways here, even, pulling back shallowly and stuff, the better, in my opinion. The kind of more you rock it up, the higher the probability that you kind of crash back down. So now we'll go into the individual. This is where I'm scanning. And for people who don't know, I scan through these ETFs not because I trade the individual ETF name, but what I do is I want to know what sectors are performing well, what sectors are performing worse, so that when I'm doing my scanning for individual stocks, if it's in a sector that's performing well, I'm going to be super excited about it. So the massive level for real estate right here. You can just see huge, huge, huge one. Massive level go on right here. So again, if the market's going to push up, maybe real estate will as well. If the market's going to sell off, right, maybe real estate will as well, because that'll level. Do I believe in sell the news? I don't believe in anything about the news. My theory is, if you know the news, everyone else knows the news, and it's already priced in. If there was something as simple as sell the news as a way to make money in the market, that would be priced completely out of the system, and it'd no longer be a way to make money in the market. So I believe in just sticking to my game plan and ignoring all those other kind of gimmicky sayings and things like that, just because they don't really, right? Again, if there was an hey, you just sell the news when it comes out, and that worked consistently, then people would buy the news, right? Knowing that other people are going to sell the news and rip it up in their face, right? So it's just never ever that easy. So I wonder if we're getting a little bull flag in XME. Right? We're holding up right here at highs, at recent highs anyway, after bouncing off what's just being like the level of all levels here on XME. So if this breaks out, maybe this is going to continue. So XME, for people who don't know, is metals and miners. So it's all different types of metals, and then also the mining companies around there as well. So a lot of like aluminum and platinum and palladium and that kind of stuff. Wheat, back to the breakout level here. This might be one to try. One of my favorite setups of all time is to find an area that's been broken out of and then come back and retested. Quite often that area will then act as resistance or support, and if it lines up with the rest of your stuff, you can play that. Now for wheat, generally what I'm doing when I'm using that ETF doesn't really have to do with wheat as the commodity. It's more of just a proxy for food related stuff, right? So XLK, a massive area. We're kind of getting a theme here, right? If I had to rename the stream, it would say something like everything's at resistance. Right? Here's IWM, which is your small caps. That's up to resistance. Everything seems to be at resistance. Grab that, pull that down there, and pull this one. Right? So IWM, your small caps, that's got an issue. Everywhere is a lot of this stuff is at areas of resistance. So XBI, right? We were watching this bull flag. We had a breakout, which is good because I got some names with that. Uranium is looking really interesting here as well. So we were watching the relative strength of uranium when it was holding up right here. Had a nice push off there. Didn't get involved as much as I wanted to, but we might be putting in a little bit of a bull flag here. So uranium, there's a lot of CCJ, triple U, or is it quadruple loot U? A lot of interesting. Meanwhile, China's been doing nothing forever. ARC finally out of this little box. So I'm still going to keep this note, see if it holds. So again, I look at ARC for, all the shitty, non-profitable names out there. But we broke out, came back down into, broke back out again, and now we're holding. If we hold for any length of time and start to push up, maybe it's time to look at those ones. XLV, I've posted this chart so many times, I don't need to again right now, but it's holding up pretty well. Moo, right? It's tan. This is very interesting to me. All right, this little island that's setting up here, just right in this area. So, if we start to pop out here, it will probably be worthwhile to go grab a bunch of solar names. So I'm going to be really, really interested when it comes to relative strength and when it comes to just pattern. I think I am most interested in uranium and solar and all of those things. So the dividend aristocrats seem to be as strong as the overall market. Yeah, and then those. All right, so again, if there was a theme that I could say so far for today, it's everything is at a giant resistance level. It seems like everything is at a giant resistance level. So we have to just be very careful, that we understand that if everything's at a giant resistance level, that's all well and good. We just need to make sure that we understand that if we start to back off this resistance area, then everything could kind of fall apart kind of quickly. So we just need to kind of keep in mind that, hey, that's just the way it works. Right? So all right. So now we are going to go into, that's what I was looking for. I was wondering why I was looking over here. Now we're going to go into the individual name part of this. So if you had any names you want me to look at, now's the time. Just loading up my little watch list here, making sure it's really, really small watch list. Edit. Let's go into public watch list. There we go. When can we buy this shirt? I'm sure we could. I don't think I would sell very many. There's only 40 members of Stats Edge Trading, so I don't know how many shirts we'd sell. So they'd probably be expensive, but I could probably ask Jess. Basically, I told Jess that I don't want to think about what I wear anymore. I want to wake up in the morning and just put on a pair of jeans and something that's got my shit on it. So wear one of the Traders for a Cause. That'd be dope. I don't think I'm going to make it to that one. I want to. Maybe still, but I don't know yet. So KLIC, this one was on the list. So sorry, what we're going to go through now is we're going to go through the list from Friday, find anything to take off the list that's no longer interested, start to scan through for things to add to the list. And at the same time, if you guys want me to look at any of your charts, just type them in chat, and we will do that now for sure. All I ask is if I look at one of your charts, like the stream, that would be appreciated. This one I'm just still watching. I really like this massive candle after earnings. The importance of this candle to me is when it gaps down after earnings and then just gets bought up pretty much all day. It struggles right here at resistance, but that's fine. Just means that a lot of people got, I guess, whatever fundamental was going on here wrong, or they got it right and the technicians took over. Who cares? So if we can kind of close above this prior high right here, I think this one looks good. Right, it gets up to 55 or so. That's a 10% move, and then the next one will be another 10%, and holding pretty strong. So this one I'm going to keep on the list. And Netflix, I'm going to keep this one on the list as well. Very typical kind of cup and handle pattern right here. Right, big giant cup, little tight handle, chopping sideways, looking to see if this breaks up, and then we've really got no resistance up into filling the gap. at the very least. Just seeing maybe this thing is $700 or what, $800, 700 a while ago. And now it's holding right here. Aclx, I've been in this one for longer than I've been in most stocks, I think. Just kind of chopping around sideways here. If this thing holds right down here, then I'm interested. If we start to break down these lows, I got to get out. This is one of my IPO plays where I'm basically trying to think, hey, is this an IPO that's going to continue? As long as we're above the IPO price, I'm happy. I'm up a few bucks on it, but it's just nothing really. FDX, just playing this kind of bull flag right here on FedEx. We'll do this one right in here. This is a scan that I'm actually going to make for the Market Explorer this week. When we trade inside of the range of a bar for a long period of time, in technical analysis, they call this a mother bar. And the longer you hang out inside that mother bar, that's interesting. Basically just looking to see, right, if we're getting this big rounded bottom in FDX, FedEx, a real boring kind of a name. We have Hilton, same kind of look. I'm just looking at this one. This was earnings right here. I don't know why they don't have it there, but gapped up on earnings. Oh, there it goes. Loads in now. And then just chop sideways. So if we can break out, it's a play that I like more and more, where it's just looking for continuation after earnings. LVS, same thing. Gapped up on earnings, kind of chopping around, holding that gap. If it breaks to new highs, it's kind of confirming that fundamental style thing, right? I take a look at the healthcare ETF. So I use XLV for my healthcare ETF, and it's just kind of smuck in the middle of this range. This is the drawing I've got up for all of healthcare. It had some relative strength, but now that relative strength is kind of dying off, as you can see with the market holding up well as well. In the middle of a range for healthcare, so not super interesting to me. I think the kind of the pharmaceutical names are looking a little better than that. MO, interesting. I see what you're looking at. It had earnings back here, and it's been kind of chopping sideways. So above that, maybe. I don't hate this chart, but right, you're fresh off this absolute shit kicking though. So I don't think you're gonna get kind of a V reversal all the way up, but maybe a little bit of a scalp. See if it can get up a little bit higher. That's fine, but if you take something like this and then you compare it to something like LVS, that's kind of the same setup recently. You can see this one, although down, just didn't have that fall off the cliff moment. It's been kind of grinding lower for a period of time and then gapped up. And then same with Hilton, right? It's been more grinding lower, and it kind of stopped going down a month and a bit ago. Whereas MO, right, just completely fell off a cliff. Really no rest. And now it's kind of chopping sideways. That's the only difference I'd put between those guys. All right, individual names. Let's take a look at. One second. Just going full screen real quick. And it's because usually I have my iPad in here. I forgot to bring it in. And I just want to check on my Forex trades, which I do on this same virtual machine. And if I open it up, there's all my account numbers there. So I'm up on those positions, but not a lot. So I'm just trying to hide because it's like MT5 puts your account, like if I were to open this, it like puts the account number like right in the bio or right in the bottom bit, which is just obnoxious. right. So I guess it's one of those things. Like we just had that chat about healthcare, Brett, but man, this one looks good. Right, this Acadia Healthcare. So you talk about relative strength, right? We talked about how healthcare, the sector, is right in the middle of its range, and then you go look at this one, and it's breaking out to new all-time highs, almost, but new highs for everything going back till 2015. So maybe on this ACHC. There's so much. The next few days will still be annoying to find stocks that looked good. But have earnings. That will continue. Yeah, see, I don't look at that myself. The way I look at it, because I just pick one time frame. I get the concept of multiple time frames, but again, the way I look at this is that this is just a bull flag. So yeah, it has to be in a downtrend in the shorter term time frame, but right, we're still above the breakout area of 80. So the way I look at it is I like that it's in this kind of a short-term downtrend, just because it's showing me that there's some orderly profit taking and selling and rest. And then my idea is that if it breaks out, right, then we've gotten in on a pullback, which I've talked about a few times with you guys as kind of my goal as a trader, is to slowly convert myself into a pullback trader. It just seems to be, for someone like myself that is so obsessed with risk reward, and I don't really give a shit about win rate. That's kind of what's really spurring on my constant focus of getting better and better pullbacks into uptrends, because it just really, really cranks that risk reward side of things. And it yes, it has to be in a shorter term downtrend in order to become a pullback. It just can't not be. So it may even lower my probability of success, but in my mind, it just makes it so that I can really, really get a good risk reward on it, and I can really crank the risk reward on it. So therefore, it's something that's interesting to me. This is an interesting looking chart. I don't know. China's got me a bit worried. But just like, look at like very consistent selling, and then very consistent buying, and then very consistent near nothing. And then looks like it could be breaking out. It's a weird looking potential cup and handle type of thing there. That's probably going to be the best trade of the year, just because I missed it. And there's CCJ. Yeah, I think I'm going to add this one to the list. So this is a perfect, I guess, time to mention my thought process if anyone just wants to break down how I think about shit. Right? So I talked about how, right, so the SPY's been making lower lows, and uranium was kind of at that same time making equal lows. So some relative strength there in uranium. And then we have this big bounce off support, with uranium, and now we're putting in what kind of looks like a bull flag, right? So chopping around sideways looks like, we could break up higher, and then uranium could push into, maybe test that resistance. Then we go into CCJ. You can see this yellow line here on the trade ideas charts just denotes an earnings date. So whatever they said on earnings, it gapped up. And this candle, if you look, if I zoom in here, right, you can see the low of this candle is pretty much the open. Pretty much. A little downtick. So basically, after earnings, the market opened and they just bought this shit up, right? And then it's just kind of put in this range, right? It's just been chopping sideways inside of this range after earnings. So maybe if we get back above 26, knowing that the sector is strong, right? Knowing that this is a little bit stronger than the sector, they had good earnings, right? Most of their stock movement is going to have to do with uranium, but it is a company, so they have fundamentals and mines and that kind of shit. That might be a decent trade. And then, like everything, if we break 26 and then we like come back down and close under like 25, for me, probably 24 is what I'll put on the list. That's what you're risking. So you're risking $2, could easily get to 30, right, which would be 5. Beyond that, away we go. So that's kind of how I think about things. How the hell did I do that? $26, $24. Now I go over. Every time you see me stare way over here. 26, 24. It's me just updating our Google spreadsheet. We have all this in. There we go. All right, so that one's on the list. NSCG. Well, if it's the same story, yeah, but so you see, this is a little bit different. So I don't like this one as much just because it's ran from 11 to 15. I don't want to buy something that's up 50% in a straight line. You know that by now, but you see how, like, let's zoom in, let's look at this and keep this in your mind, and then look at MO and how dramatically different these two sell-offs are. Right, one's a little bit of a slow, orderly grind. The other one is obviously news-driven, like just tank. So this one is going to have more bag holders in it because it gave them less time to get out than this one. That would have given people more time to get out because it's kind of chopping around and going slower, right? Make sure you have your charts both on the same aspect ratio. I know I don't right here, and so I'm kind of do what I say, not what I do. But as you're going through, especially when you're new, make sure they're in the same. A lot of people make the mistake of they have some charts that are squished up and they're scanning that way, and they have some charts that are bigger and they're scanning that way, right? You want to make them the same aspect ratio so that you don't fall for stuff like that where you're like, oh, this looks like it's the same as this, when, I don't know, maybe you're just looking at two different charts or something like that. CHRW, I like. That's a freight transport. I'm going to put that one on the list. It's just chopping around this zone right here. This rings a bell. Oh, well, there you go. 111. 107. I must have liked this very recently. LQDA. It looks good. Earnings are getting there, though. That would be my only kind of worry there. It's got earnings on the way. This scan is going to be up on the Market Explorer sometime this week too. It's for the Stats Edge Pro people. They'll know this. It's the J hook scan. I have one that I shared that was topless form. This one I like a little bit better, and it's made with the Market Explorer, which gives me access to do some stuff that I can't without. So it's basically the same scan that you'll see on TrendSpider that I have shared, but it has the advantage of coming from Trade Ideas, which means not just scanning ETF lists, it's scanning everything, right? I just need to tweak it, and then I need to change the columns so that there's some other thing, which, again, there were some changes for people who don't know. If you go into Trade Ideas and look at the bull flag scanner, I've made some changes to it in which you can double click and sort by different positions and ranges. Oh, I'm on the wrong. Hold on. There we go. So yeah, you can now it has these position and range columns, and you can double click on them to sort them. So this one's 20-day range, and here's 120-day range. So if I just want stuff that's in the top end of its 20-day range, I can just double click on the column. That's a little addition that I changed stuff. Just FYI, people. LVMU. Yeah, too gappy, too choppy. It's a winery in France. That's why it's so gappy and choppy. EVRG, what's this guy? Oh, utility. Kind of boring. EXEL, this one's interesting as well, but it's got earnings. I really like the look of this chart. I've been watching this develop for a while, but it's got earnings Tuesday, so just takes it out of the running entirely, unfortunately. It's a lot of that happens. It's like once a quarter. I just have to go through it. It means I scan for an extra hour, sometimes a day, and get way less out of it. So it sucks, but this is an interesting one. I'm going to add this one to the list. Surgical and medical instruments. It's got a clear level here at 20. It's been battling for a while. Earnings is out of the way. And if you look at the weekly chart, that's the IPO price back here. So it's right above the IPO price. So it's at FNA. So if this can get over 20, and you can see that's also like the IPO price. So there's a massive level here at 20. Boom, boom. Right, big deal at 20. So I'll make it 20 and 18. That's a good one. I like the look of that one. AVWAP from IPO price. Nice stop. That's so Brett, that's coming soon to Trade Ideas. Yeah, under that, so around what, 1750. I'm going to have the ability soon to, my dev has told me soon a lot, but I saw his work on Friday and it seems like he's getting there, to be able to scan with anchored VWAPs from wherever I want. So one of the first scans that I'm going to build is the anchored VWAP from IPO. I think that's got to be the first one. Everything has earnings. So this is probably going to be the only list I go through tonight, but this is quickly becoming my, well, for people from Stats Edge Pro, they'll know this has been one of my favorite scans for a long time. I need to think of a better name than J-Hook because it's not really doing always the J-Hook thing, but it's essentially looking for, I can add these just so you guys can see, but it's basically not that there's any power in any of these moving averages. I don't want to get anyone hyped up, but it's looking for an 8 EMA to be over a 20 EMA as a way just to denote a short-term trend. And then what it's looking for is it's looking for 2 candles to have a low lower than the 8 EMA, but a close higher. And the idea is in most cases, it's looking for kind of short-term pullbacks on things that are in nice uptrends. So like this one's a perfect example. If this wasn't a real estate play, maybe, but this is kind of what I'm looking for, right? Where it's basically putting in 2 bottoming tails around this level. Again, not there's any magic in the moving average, but just showing like, because the 8 is over the 20, just mathematically means we're in a short-term uptrend. The fact that we're nudging up against this moving average is just for a way for me to say, hey, I want something that's at least not overextended and hasn't been just running forever. These are the ones I got to figure out how to filter out, right? I'm no longer interested in this. I may just put a distance from the moving average. Actually, let me make that note. That's the way to do it. And distance to EMA to J hook scans to remove overdone stuff. Because yeah, this IN was INVN. This is kind of the perfect example of the pattern that I'm going for. It's just, strong stock in our time frame, pulls back, puts in 2 lows under this level, and then closes higher. So a simple play on something like this would just be to buy 38 with a stop at 37, right? And then see if you can get to 40. Like just a very basic play. Hooking winners, cross tails, yeah. Yeah, AVU app from highs, that will be another another scan that I'm going to build into the Market Explorer as soon as I can do AVWAPs, but I'm going to do it better than I can do it in TrendSpider. For example, one of the scans I want to build right away is I want to look for stocks that are, have an anchored VWAP from all-time highs. There's your LQDA. That's what you were looking at, right? Yeah, LQDA from J-Hook. So yeah, it's a good pattern. It's just earnings. So we have earnings in 3 days, and I think TrendSpider had earnings in 10. So I would verify that at a third party just to make sure. You'll keep me with TI if you have a suite for AVWAP scans. Oh yeah. What we're hoping to do is, because Brian Shannon's coming out with his book fairly soon. I think it's at the editors, last I heard, for his anchored VWAP book. And obviously, from a sales point of view, it would be great if I could both have access to the scan and to have a handful of them built by the time the book comes out, because, right, it's just obvious reasons. I don't think I have to explain why that'd be a good sales idea for trade ideas. But yeah, that's the goal. Is I'm going to do simple things like anchored VWAPs from, swing highs, swing lows for 20 days, 100 days, 200 days, blah blah. But one that I'm interested in is, right, say this is, the all-time highs. I want to find some stock that's been under that for a while and is now breaking over it. And with TrendSpider, you can only go back, I think, 200 days. But I want to go back at least 1,000 days to verify the all-time highs. So this is going to be one too, this NTR. The reason is, remember we said that wheat might be at a bounce point, and these guys do some sort of crop farming. It has a nice strong push up and then pull back and some consolidation. If you zoom in, right, doji, a lot of indecision in this area. So we could just simply do like an 84.80 on NTR. And it's after earnings, which is great. So, right, I'm just playing this 4-day range right here. And we're going to do 84.80. Well, no, I wouldn't buy it now. I'd wait for it to get through resistance. But yeah, I like the look of this one too. If it gets through this resistance, you wouldn't buy it now. You'd say if it can get over like 29 and close over 29, that would be interesting. Or buy it over 29, and if it sells back off, get back out. You've got earnings. You got 20 candles. I think that's enough room. So that looks good. It's a choppy stock, right? So you got to know it's not going to be, right, that's 29, and this high right here is 34. So it's slow, which doesn't mean much. Just means, more. There's more consolidation here. There's 250 results in this scan, which is why I need to make it so users can filter it and stuff. And we're going to go through all of them. So I got a private message about kind of what the J-hook means. And this is why I've got to rename it before I put it in Trend Idea. But basically, and I've also heard it called a bull scoop, right? You're looking for this kind of pattern to occur, and that's supposed to be your J, right? Some sort of upward move and then some sort of kind of quick consolidation back down and then a push up, right? So if I can find an example, I will. So this is a very short-term example, but here's the idea. Here's the idea right here. And it's on the scan today, but it'll also be on yesterday. But you're just looking for a push up and then, right, this type of pattern. And then you're hoping that that continues. And that's kind of the J hook, the typical kind of J hook pattern. So just I had someone DMing me asking me what that meant. And that's just that's the idea. So that's kind of what we're looking for, right? So ideally you pick up the J hook if that's what we're seeing right here on this like PLD, whatever this is, right? You try to get it right here and then your stop goes right here. And then you're hoping that whatever this risk is, that you're able to make 2 times that at least when you're right. Right. So we have a little scoop going on in here. I don't know what PLD does, other financial vehicles, real estate, more real estate trusts. We need guest speaker Brian Shannon. Maybe. I don't know. I've hung out a few times. He's a good guy. We have some a good rapport with him, but especially right after his book launches, I would assume he's going to be just stupid busy. So, maybe not. Wix. Oh, I have to go back. Hold on. Because if I don't clear that from here, I don't know how to go back and clear it later. Wix. WIX. Earnings in 2 days. Obviously a real shitty stock. I don't even know what they do, but from $300 to $60 and then up like 6 or 7 days in a row. I like the last one you posted. This one is a steaming pile of shit to me, to not sugarcoat it. Tusk. That looks good. Oil and gas. Whoops. Wow. There we go. Oh, we got a porn bot. Awesome. Just hit that ban button. It's always good when we get the porn bots, though. Damn. It's just going. We made it, guys. We did it. I'm just making sure. You guys don't see that in the stream anymore. Yeah, digging deep, going after what? Streamers with, I don't know, what is there, 10 people here? If you haven't looked that hard, yeah. It's like, yeah, didn't you know? It's like these people don't know that it might exist on the internet somewhere else, and that YouTube with some bearded dude talking about stock charts isn't the place to look for it. It's funny how that works. This one's interesting. It's an oil and gas pusher. It's incredibly low float, so it could get going for sure. Over 4. I'm gonna steal this one. So what? Tusk. It's a little bit wacky, but if oil ever starts going, last time it went, there was a whole lot of these little guys that just went insane. And yeah, it's right at the other thing that I liked about it, looking at the weekly chart, right, is there's a resistance right here as well. So if it breaks through that, could get to 5. So go to Tusk. 4.3. Redfin popping up there. There is not too much else I see here, which is fine because I actually have 11 things on the list. There's friggin' Sega. That thing's still going. Wild. Monkeypox. Oh, silver popping up. That's interesting. So earnings. Yeah, it's still there's a lot of that. Like I just looked at this one. I said, "Oh, this STKL looks great," and then earnings. This kind of it's the way she goes, right? There's this. It's annoying, but there's like a 2 week period every quarter where I'm just battling to find stuff that's not kind of held up by the market. And it's just, right, some people will hold these things through earnings. I just won't. I'm not interested. If I'm up like massive on a position already, and maybe I've already sold a chunk of it or something, maybe I'll give it a shot. Now, one thing that's interesting. So you guys know I'm a fan of a top-down analysis, right? I look at the overall market, I look at the industries in the market, and then I look at the stocks within that industry. And I remember looking at real estate and saying, oh, geez, real estate's in a shitty area. And if we go to XLRE, we'll see that, right? XLRE, right? It's in a kind of interesting area. However, I've seen like a bunch of real estate names like this TRNO that look really, really good. So, from a bottom up point of view, maybe real estate's the move. What? BMI? That's an interesting looking chart. Metalworking, so we'll probably move with XME. Looks like I tried to trade it before. Looks like I may have actually taken a trade in this area. And that's up near high. Yeah. What do they do? Jeez, I'm not reading all that. Fabricated metal producing. I think it's a bit, I'd want to see a couple more days. I just think it's a bit extended for me personally. Twitter. Twitter perking up here. See a lot of really good names on this scan, eh? Twitter, I'm not touching because it's just one of those things. It's just this battle with Elon and Twitter going back and forth, and unless you've got like you understand contract law and you're taking a bet that way, I don't think it's I just don't think it's the one to beat. Yeah, all of these real estate companies, right? They do look good. They've had this recent pop up and this kind of nice consolidation lower high bull flag. It's interesting. And there's uranium. That's good. That I looked at that and I was like, oh, that looks really good. And it's uranium. So URG is another uranium play. We're getting close to the bottom of this list here. And that's 256 charts on top of all of the other scanning I did. And to be honest, that's enough. That'll be enough for a Sunday night at 9:30 at night. Okay, guys. That's, I think, all I see. Let's I'm going to put that in that list and just go through that with you guys. And then for the Stats Edge Pro members, I'm going to, do the blog post and all that, and I'll post in our Discord room when that's done. But so KLIC, basically just playing the bull flag here. I really like that strong engulfing candle because of earnings that happened right here. I'm going to leave that up for a second while I do this because that's a good idea. Hit like on the way out. So Netflix, nice cup and handle. Very, very typical cup and handle play. William O'Neill would be proud with something like that. CCJ, this is a play off uranium that I like. A nice, good old Canadian uranium company. I just like strong move off earnings and a nice consolidation. So if it continues above that, I think this one could keep going. Aclx is an IPO play, so I'm playing against the IPO price right here. As long as we're above that IPO price, I'm happy. I am in some of that currently. CHRW, this is just a nice bull flag play up against a really, really strong level. So if we can get through this strong level, if this bull flag resolves and that pushes us through that level, it could be a nice longer term breakout on this name into FRA, or FNA. This one's another metals, like manufacturing kind of a thing. Playing off the IPO price, putting in a nice base under that IPO price. If this one gets going, we have highs here at 25. That even if we got there, I'd be a happy camper. But the thing I love about IPOs is there's no bag holders, right? So there's no one that needs to sell to recoup a loss. NTR, nice downtrend, but it looks like this downtrend could be reversing. 4 kind of right parallel days next to it. So if this one breaks up, I like the look of that one. FDX, just playing, again, nice rounded bottom, some sideways action here, looking for some continuation. This is a nice boring play. Hilton, earnings, power earnings continuation. I think I may call the play. Basically, you look for earnings, you look for sideways chop after earnings, and then you look for some continuation. LVS, same type of thing. Nice move off of earnings, then some nice sideways consolidation around earnings. So if this continues, it just kind of confirms that it's going through. This Tusk, I like this one because it's kind of putting in a bull flag, playing against this prior high right here. If I scroll way out, Yeah, that high is 7. That'd be amazing. And it's just a low float energy play, and these low float energy plays do really well if oil starts to get going again. It might be always good time to have these on watch. You might remember that there were some of these insane moves the last time oil went crazy off these lower float ones that were like tripling and quadrupling. So might not be a bad idea just to keep one of those on watch. So again, everyone, thank you very much for coming out. For the Stats Edge Pro members, I will get this to you. For people who haven't yet, I put out another profit and loss on Friday. You can go back on the channel and find that. Come to statsedgetrading.com, hang out, say hi, and until I see you next time, trade safe out there, guys.